Have you ever walked past a dealer's lot and noticed the same SUVs sitting there month after month, practically growing roots into the pavement? Trust me, there's a reason. These rigs are so unwanted that salesmen are throwing cash on the hood just to get somebody, anybody, to drive them off the lot. Hello everyone, this is Scott from CarlandTV. It's time to hop in the front seat because today, it's time to pull back the curtain on the SUVs nobody's lining up for, the ones dealers are practically begging you to take home. But first, do me a quick favor. Tap that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. It ain't required, but those clicks keep this thing rolling and make it easier for me to keep dropping solid car content straight to your screen. Now let's get back into it. 1. Jeep Compass. Alright, let's talk about the Jeep Compass, because this thing is one of those SUVs you'll see plastered with big discount stickers on the lot. Jeep gave it a decent upgrade not too long ago with the 2-liter turbo engine. It's pushing 200 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque, hooked up to an 8-speed automatic with standard all-wheel drive across the board. On paper, that sounds solid. But here's the problem. In the real world, it just doesn't stack up against the heavy hitters in this class. The fuel economy is okay at 24 inches, the city, and 32 on the highway. But when you're shopping against a CR-V hybrid or an RAV4, those numbers look soft. Dealers know it too. I've seen cash allowances climb to $6,000 on certain 2025 Compass trims just to move them. Stellantis bragged about Compass sales being up 16% in 2024, with 111,000 units sold. But that's because they're practically giving them away, not because folks are lining up asking for one. Then you've got the reliability talk. Consumer Reports puts it below average, and J.D. Power doesn't exactly sing its praises either. When buyers hear that, most of them run to Toyota or Honda instead. Resale is another kick in the teeth. A Compass loses about 46% of its value in 5 years, while a RAV4 hangs closer to 30%. So yeah, if you snag a fat rebate or a dirt cheap lease, maybe it makes sense. Otherwise, most buyers just walk right past it. 2. Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross. The Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross is one of those SUVs I keep seeing shoved to the back of the lot, and there's a reason nobody's rushing over to sign papers on it. Mitsubishi wanted this thing to be their sporty little crossover, but it just never found its place. Under the hood, you've got a 1.5-liter turbo 4 that makes 152 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. On paper, sure, that's fine, but once you drive it, the CVT kills any fun. It feels sluggish getting up to speed and kind of buzzes along without much punch. Even with all-wheel drive, it doesn't feel planted or inspiring. Gas mileage doesn't do it any favors either. The EPA says 26 inches the city and 29 on the highway. That's barely average. And when buyers can grab a CR-V or a RAV4 hybrid that hits well into the 30 seconds, this one falls off the list fast. The sales numbers prove the point. In 2024, Mitsubishi only sold about 25,000 Eclipse Cross units in the US. Compare that to the 400,000 plus RAV, 4S, and CR-Vs that Toyota and Honda moved, and it's clear where people are putting their money. Dealers know they've got a tough sell, so they're tossing out big offers. I've seen rebates in the $2,500 to $3,000 range and leases under $300 a month just to move them. Long-term ownership doesn't help either. Consumer Reports puts reliability below average, and resale is rough, with around 40% of its value gone in 5 years. That's why this SUV just sits. 3. Nissan Murano. The Nissan Murano is one of those rigs I can't move, no matter how much polish we throw on it. This thing's been riding the same bones since 2015, and customers can tell. They walk up, peek inside, and it feels like a time capsule. Sure, Nissan dropped in that 2-liter VC turbo with 241 horsepower and a 9-speed, and on paper, that sounds fresh. But when folks actually drive it, the excitement fizzles quickly. Fuel economies in the low 20 seconds combined, and that's a deal killer when the guy down the street is pushing Toyota Venzas and Hyundai Santa Fes, hitting over 30 mpg without breaking a sweat. I've watched the numbers slide year after year. Back in 2018, Nissan sold more than 80,000 Muranos here in the States. Fast forward to 2024, and we're looking at under 35,000. That's not a dip, that's a collapse. Customers just aren't asking for them anymore. They'll point at the Rogue, maybe the Pathfinder, but the Murano gets passed by like it's invisible. Now, to move these, Nissan's stacking on the rebates. I've seen thousands shaved off MSRP and lease payments cut just to get them out the door. And even then, buyers hesitate once they learn it loses more than half its value in 5 years. Reliability? Consumer Reports says it's about average, nothing special, with nagging electronic issues. From my side of the desk, the Murano isn't a bad SUV, but it's yesterday's news, and that's why it's stuck gathering dust. 4. Volkswagen Taos. The Taos is one of those SUVs I almost feel bad trying to sell, because the interest just isn't there. It's supposed to be VW's affordable entry into the small crossover game, but when folks come in and test drive it, they walk away underwhelmed. The 1.5-liter turbo makes 158 horsepower and 184 pound-feet, and it's paired with either an 8-speed auto on front-wheel drive models or a 7-speed DSG on the all-wheel drive version. Sounds like options, right? But the complaints pile up. The transmission can be jerky, the turbo lag is noticeable, and when you stack it against something like a Honda HR-V or Toyota Corolla Cross, the Taos feels like it's trying too hard without delivering. Fuel economy is decent, mid-30 seconds highway if you baby it, but reliability is the anchor dragging it down. Consumer Reports flags it for below-average predicted reliability, and owners keep coming back with issues tied to the transmission and electronics. That reputation hits hard, especially for a brand still fighting to rebuild trust after years of recalls and warranty headaches. Sales aren't collapsing, but they're soft. The Taos has been floating around 30 to 40K units a year, which is fine for a niche product, but not when you've got Toyota and Honda doubling or tripling that volume. And on the resale front, depreciation hovers in the 40 to 45% range after 5 years, which is worse than many rivals. So what happens? Dealers throw out low lease specials, cut-rate financing, and even 0% for short terms. Still, most buyers take the deal sheet, glance at the Taos, and then end up in a Tiguan or something Japanese. That's just the reality of this one. 5. Buick Encore GX. The Encore GX is one particular SUV that sounds good on paper but just doesn't win people over once they see the numbers. Buick aimed it at folks who want something a little nicer than a Chevy Trax, but not quite as pricey as a Cadillac XT4. Trouble is, it sits in this weird middle ground that doesn't make sense to most buyers. Power comes from either a 1.2-liter turbo with 137 horsepower or a 1.3-liter turbo with 155 horsepower. Neither of those feels strong, and when you're paying close to 30 grand, shoppers expect more guts under the hood. Fuel economy is solid, with highway numbers in the low 30 seconds, but the competition is pulling that off too, and some of them offer hybrid options. When people cross-shop, they see a Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid hitting over 40 miles per gallon, and suddenly the Encore GX doesn't feel so premium. On reliability, Consumer Reports has Buick sitting in the middle of the pack. Not terrible, but not exactly something that sells itself, and that's a problem for a brand trying to pitch upscale value. Sales haven't been great either. Buick moved just over 71,000 Encore GX units in 2023, which is down from its peak, and the numbers keep softening as more folks slide to Honda or Toyota dealerships. Dealers are responding the only way they can, by stacking rebates and offering loyalty cash. I've seen $2,000 to $3,500 in incentives on the hood, plus cheap leases just to keep them moving. Still, when resale drops nearly 45% in 5 years, most buyers see through the deal. This is one of those SUVs you'll find heavily discounted, but there's a reason those discounts are there. Look, Chevrolet Blazer. Here's the deal with the Chevy Blazer. Customers come in hot on the name, thinking it's going to have that old-school muscle. But once they see what it really is, a lot of them lose interest fast. The styling hooks people at first. It's got that Camaro-inspired front end, sharp lines, and looks aggressive enough. Then they sit inside, look at the sticker, and ask why this thing costs mid-40 seconds when a Grand Cherokee or Hyundai Santa Fe hybrid gives them more features and better efficiency for about the same money. That's the wall I run into over and over. Performance isn't terrible. The V6 with 308 horsepower can move, but buyers watch the MPG tank into the teens if they drive it like a normal SUV. The 4-cylinder turbo is easier on gas, but folks say it feels weak when you load it up with people and gear. It ends up being a compromise that doesn't please either crowd. I've watched sales slide every year since the initial relaunch excitement. These used to move close to 100,000 units, and now we're talking 60 to 70,000 if that. On the lot, that means more days sitting and bigger discounts to push them. I've seen $3,000 to $5,000 off plus attractive lease terms. But buyers are still hesitant once they hear resale drops close to 50% in 5 years. From my side of the desk, the Blazer's problem is simple. It doesn't carve out its own lane. People want rugged or they want efficient, and the Blazer can't commit to either. 7. Infiniti QX50. The Infiniti QX50 is a headache to sell because it promises luxury but doesn't quite deliver it. Folks walk onto the lot expecting something that feels like a cut above Nissan, and honestly, most of them leave saying it doesn't feel any more special than a Rogue that costs 10 grand less. The big talking point has always been that 2-liter VC turbo engine negative 268 horsepower and the fancy variable compression tech. Sounds great in the brochure, but once people drive it, the CVT dulls the whole experience. It's supposed to feel premium, but instead it feels like a dressed-up crossover with a sluggish transmission. Gas mileage hovers in the mid-20 seconds combined, which is nothing impressive for 2025 when competitors in this class are rolling out hybrids and plug-ins. Reliability has been shaky, too. Consumer Reports puts it below average, and owners complain about electronic gremlins and CVT quirks. That's not something luxury buyers want to gamble on. Sales numbers tell the same story. Infiniti sold close to 40,000 QX50s in the US, back when it first relaunched. But by 2024, that number was under 20,000. That's a collapse in a segment where Lexus, BMW, and Acura are thriving. To move them, dealers are cutting prices hard. I've seen $5,000 incentives plus lease deals that look like fire sales. Even then, resale is rough, losing around half its value in 5 years. From my chair, the QX50 isn't a terrible ride, but in a competitive luxury space, not terrible isn't enough.